So if you're just starting out as a freelance writer, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, I don't have any clients, so how am I going to get samples? I don't have any samples, so how am I going to get clients? You get caught in what you think is a catch-22, but the reality is you can create portfolio pieces, you can create samples. Clients are just looking at your samples just to see a sample of your work. So it's not that hard for you to create samples. We want to talk about that today. And also, I think one of the biggest issues though is when we say things like that, and we say things like, well, you can create samples, you can create a portfolio if you've never had any clients before. The question that pops up though is, but how? How do I know what to write? How do I know if it's good enough? Like, how do I actually know that my samples are relevant samples for the potential clients I want to connect with? So let's talk a little bit about that today and hopefully get AWAI members kind of unstuck and moving forward. If that's a roadblock in front of you, we want to pull that roadblock aside so you can get moving forward.
Yeah. So you guys watching, have you ever tried writing samples before? Just tell us yes or no and tell us how it went. And of course, ask us any questions you have along the way as well. People are saying hi. Hi,
Stephanie.
Ingrid,
good to see you here. And if you have samples, what kind of samples have you put together? You know, what samples do you use right now? Do you think they're good? Are you happy with them right now? I am kind of curious some of you have been around for a while, so I am curious when we say, just create samples. How is that going for you? What samples have you created? Yeah. Meredith says, no, she's just starting out. We're going to get you.
Which is perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I can just imagine, I know what it's like to be like in that early stage, right? When you're just like, I would love to get paid to write. I love writing, but what do I do? Like, how do I even approach this? So Rebecca, what do you think is the best way to get your writing samples started? Like, what do people need to know about this?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people have been around this business for a very long time. So I often and my answers change actually over the course of as the years go on, but I'm always asked since the day I started with AWAI to today, what is the fastest way? And you guys who are breaking into writing now have it so much easier than the writers who were breaking in when AWAI started 25 years ago. Back then, there were only 4 projects that you could really get paid well to write, the sales letter being the top of the top. But it takes a long time to learn to write, to be really confident and great at writing sales letters. That was a feat for a lot of writers. It just felt out of reach, even though it's possible, it just felt harder. These days, though, with so much copy and so much content needed in all the various stages of the customer journey, my answer to that question is, how do I get started? And this is going to tie into samples. My answer is typically with the easiest projects, the projects that you already know and consume on a regular basis. If I say to you an article, if I say to you blog post, if I say to you newsletter, you write, Bonnie, like you think of it right away, you can picture what a newsletter is. And so there's an obvious simplicity to that. So those are the projects I typically recommend writers start with. So if you're someone who doesn't have any samples, who has no experience, I'm going to recommend that you start with a project like that. And to write a sample, it's the same thing. What samples do I write? I write samples of the projects that I want to be hired to write. So if I was writing case studies, for example, or if I wanted to write sales letters, I would want to have sample sales letters, sample case studies that I could show the proof that I can do this project. But if you're just starting out, the projects you're going to try and land first are things like blogs and emails and articles and newsletters. Right. Again, because it's very easy for you, and also because it's easy for your client to give you a chance. First-time clients, they don't care. This much experience, that much experience, this many samples, it's not about all of that. It really is ideas, ease of working, and just writing style. So your samples can easily show that. But to have a client to try you out on a blog or to try you out on a newsletter, there's very little risk for them. So really, they're not looking at this, if I'm going to hire you, Bonnie, to write a newsletter, let's just give it a shot. I don't need to see a long client list and a long portfolio of samples because it's just a newsletter. I'm going to be out $750, maybe $1,200. And when all is said and done, it would take me more time to review a big portfolio of samples than to just get into it. So the answer to that question of first projects it's usually simple projects. And the answer for portfolio pieces, it's write pieces that you already know. You already consume blogs, emails, newsletters, articles, things like that. So just decide, do I want to start with blogs? Great. We can write a few sample blog posts. That's a lot easier than trying to think about this complex portfolio full of lots of different things. Because the reality is it's just not necessary.
Well, and if you are targeting sales letters down the line, I mean, it's a good idea anyway to get your foot in the door with a company using a blog or a newsletter or something. Like they're more likely to hire you doing that first. So that still is a good first sample to have.
It's great. And honestly, for me, I don't think I would even write a sales letter out of the gate for a company I've never worked with before, because even your commitment as a writer, a blog post is going to take you a couple of hours, once you get used to writing them. So you can do that quickly and maybe see if you like working with them. What if their review process is 7 people deep or something really complex? Or again, a sales letter where you're going to be writing for, 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe we should go to coffee before we commit to 6 to 8 week projects. So it might even be a great solution, like Bonnie was saying. Even if you have a dream of having bigger projects, or that is your long-term, maybe start with something smaller up the chain, even emails that link to promos that they already have, that they're already mailing. That might be an easier, more approachable way to get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you hire people, you hire writers all the time. And if someone were to show you a sample of, say, like a blog post, what sorts of things would you be looking for?
That's a really good question. So for me, it's relevancy. I can, if let's say it wasn't relevant and it was for Bitcoin, well, that's not really relevant to my audience that I'm looking to write for. So it's hard for me to wonder or to see, would you be able to write in our style? Do you know my audience? Right. So that's where picking a niche comes in handy. And you don't need to pick a niche. You can start with a specialty. I'm a site audit expert. I am a social media communicator or manager. You can start with specialties, but if you are really trying to be proactive and building your client list and going, niching is easier just because I can go after veterinarians. If I want to write newsletters for veterinary practices, I can have 3 newsletters written by Wednesday, and I can have a list of 100 veterinarians that I could contact at the same time, right? It just gives me speed. And then there's relevancy. When I go to the veterinarian down the street and say, I write newsletters that keep your patients engaged and have them come in for more regular appointments, things like teeth cleaning and making sure their dogs are healthy, not just when they need you, but in between. I know veterinarian, that's part of what you want. Let me show you some sample newsletters that I've written before. That's very easy, right? Now I've got relevant content for that veterinarian. I've identified, we're kind of getting into a little bit of nuance here, but I've given him proof that I even know what the point of the newsletter is. And all my samples are going to do exactly that. I'm going to have a sample on brushing a dog's teeth. I'm going to have a sample on checking your dogs for ticks. I'm going to have a newsletter, all the kind of seasonal things that a veterinarian might need. It makes writing your samples super easy. It makes using them super easy because now I can go exactly to my target audience and they're going to be very well received because of the relevancy. So going back to your question, I'm typically looking for ideas more than anything that prove that they understand who my audience is. And then also a sample that just kind of shows me that they can take from an idea all the way through a piece of content and flesh out the idea. It's not just the idea, but that it can be presented in a way, 800 words or so, that gets me from a beginning into an end where I understand their writing style and that they can finish the thought all the way through. Like I almost did with my own statement there. I finished this thought all the way through.
I think that was beautiful. So we already have a ton of questions coming in.
Excellent.
But before we get to those really quick, we are talking about something that you can do without having a client, right? Like you don't need to have a client to do this. You start.
No, and I never look at the names. That I could care less. I just want to know that you wrote the sample and that's your headline. There's your lead. There's the body. There's the call to action. It's all in place. It has nice spacing. Clearly you understand the basics of writing. If you take any class from us, any entry level class, we're going to ensure that by the time you finish it, you have those basics down. We've actually just launched our Let's Write program with Bonnie. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but it literally walks you through this. Nothing that we do doesn't start though with the fundamentals. So even that program, even though it's about writing your first portfolio piece, we start with the fundamentals, because when you send that piece to someone, I want them to, even before they read it, for them to look at it and say, yep, strong headline, lead, nice spacing. I can tell they don't have big blocks of text, clear call to action. I see the bullets. It's all there. I want people to always, whenever they see copy from you, for them to automatically feel like, oh, this looks like professional copy without even reading a word. And then when they read the words, they'll see that all the pieces are there. So anything you do with us, it's going to have that foundation built in.
Yeah. And so you guys just heard it right here too, that like somebody who hires writers said that like you will legitimately just look at the writing. You're not necessarily looking at like who they did it for, or if they did it for somebody. Like
The
you're
reality
just
is I
proving
probably
right
don't
there.
even know anyways, nor do I really care. You know, you
Yeah.
could put Acme whatever company, or it doesn't even matter, right? Because a blog or
Don't make up the name of a company though.
no, well, like content
Don't
is
make
just
it up.
content. There's no
Yeah.
need for it. It's not like I'm saying I wrote a sales letter for this company selling this product. This is an article about a topic. It could have been published anywhere. And it doesn't really matter if and when and where and for whom it was published. You can tell that it's a really good article worthy of being published.
Yeah. Now, is it okay if they put it on their own personal blog, for example?
So you can. The only caveat there is if it is a true sample. You won't want to post it on your blog if it's been published somewhere else for two reasons. One, the other company, the company that hired you to write the sample, actually owns the copyright. So you'll have to get permission from them to use it. They've paid you to write it on their behalf. Also, there's something called duplicate content, and it can get knocked out of both places on Google. If the same piece keeps appearing multiple places, Google doesn't know which one the original one was. And so it just will kind of discredit them. So if you were to do something like that, first get permission, and then second, actually have a reprint permission saying this was reprinted with permission from, and then have a link back to the original site. And if it happened to be a sample, that would be an okay thing, right? Because you'd be able to then link back to the place where it was published. But the reality is 99% of clients who look at your sample are never going to even think to ask, where is this published? It's a sample. I actually interviewed Steve Slonwhite for this amazing B2B opportunity. It's called Sales Enablement Copywriting. And because of what it is, creating copy and content for a sales team to use, you cannot share it. There is no way for you to share a sample that's been used. So you literally have to create dummy samples to show clients. And then you just say, I obviously can't show you anything because it's all proprietary to their selling experience. But here are some dummy samples I've created so that you can see, I understand what the pieces are, what the points are, and can write these pieces for you. I thought that was interesting, that you can't even have samples.
So, but along those lines, kind of, I have a question that came in, really simple question. How many samples should you have in a portfolio?
I say 3 to 5. And it's like a gut check. I'm never going to read more than 3. 5 gives me a little bit of length just in case. I'm like, I don't like this one. Let me see if there's another one. But there's no way I'm reading more than 3. I'm busy, as is everybody else who hires writers. And there's just no way anybody would read more than that. But if you can't tell after the first couple, if you want to hire someone or not, they're probably not going to go much deeper than that.
Well, and that's great. 3 to 5, that means you don't need to have like a huge blog filled out with all kinds of blog posts before you start. You can just start with 3.
Absolutely. And if someone asks you for for samples, here's 3. Let me know if you want more, right? And if they did for some reason want more, you'd be able to give them more. What I also like to do, though, and I talk to our AWAI members about this a lot, is you might send a sample and then say, here's a sample that I can show you, but really I'd love to just have an opportunity to write for you. So like you get to show the sample, but you're immediately going to pivot and say, but I'd love to do something that's super relevant for you and your audience. You know, your voice is unique from every other company out there. Let's do a sample blog just for you so you can see what I can do for you and your audience. In that case, I quickly then would glance at the sample and then just jump into that. Like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why would I read something that you've written for somebody else when clearly we have a unique audience and a unique style and unique messaging, and I want something unique for me? So the sample gets you past that little hurdle, but you immediately turn it into, I like to call it a paid audition. let me try to write something for you. And it's for a fee,
Yes.
but at least it gives us both a chance to see how this might work, how this relationship might work.
Mm-hmm. And then you can take it from there. I mean, if it works out well, that could become a really good client. You never know.
Absolutely.
So, another question came in. This person was saying they have experience with newspapers and a magazine, but never done copywriting. As an older writer, how easy is it to learn to write a newsletter?
Madeline, age has nothing to do with how fast you can learn to write something. The fact that you already have that journalism background is going to make it very easy for you to enter in the content space. It really is more of learning how to write with a little bit of bias, since you're probably used to writing with a more unbiased, both sides, presenting both sides. Typically, copywriters there's something they're moving them towards, even content. Ultimately, your clients are selling something down the line. And even if you never write any sales copy, you're still attracting an audience and moving them towards something. So there's a little bit of like understanding of how persuasive content works. But the fact that you've already been able to put pen to paper and write and research, you are coming in with so much great experience. All you're doing right now is just learning a format type. So let's say, for example, you went through Bonnie's Let's Write. She's going to give you, I will give you some basic fundamentals of persuasion that kind of show you where you're going with your content. And then she's literally going to show you how to apply it. Here's how we write this project type. And really, after you go through the core of AWAI has something called the AWAI method that is our big foundation of copywriting. Everything is really just project based. Like, how does this show up in a newsletter? How do the fundamentals show up in a blog post? How do the fundamentals show up in case studies or emails or video scripts or social media? Once you understand the core of persuasion, it really is just, I hate to use the word template, but there is a structure behind things, and you're really just learning how to write in that structure. So I think you would have a very easy time entering into the copywriting world because you've already been able to come up with ideas, do the research necessary, and put all the words on paper to take somebody on a journey to the end of the article. So I think you'd have a very easy time.
That's great. Couple more questions, and then we can talk a little more about how you guys can learn how to do this. Somebody's saying, you just mentioned, so clients are willing to pay you for just a sample for their company?
So it's not a sample. You're actually offering to take a job. So you're basically saying, here's a sample, and this is all well and good, but it's not for you. If I was writing for you, I would do things differently because you have a unique audience and a unique style and a unique voice. I would love to just do a blog post for you. And then if you love it, we'll do more. And if not, no harm, no foul. That's one time. That's why I call it a paid audition. It's not like a spec where I'm saying, if you like it and publish it, then you'll pay me. I'm literally saying it's a blog post. Like, let's just go ahead and try to write one. If you like this one enough, I think I can do an even better job if I was actually writing for you. Here's 5 ideas that I've come up with. Which one would you like me to start with? Even just adding that little bit on at the end, it makes it so easy for the client to say, let's go with number 3. I do want that. And ideally, if you've picked a niche or you are reaching out to a potential client that you really want to write for, you should kind of have some ideas in your back pocket that you would recommend to them so that when you get those opportunities at bat, not only are you going to say, I'd love to write something specifically for you. Hey, here's some ideas I have. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you've thought about ideas that you can write for me. Again, you prove your worth, you prove your value. You're constantly giving in every turn, and you are proving to me that you know my audience and you have ideas, which it'd be very hard for most companies who have things like blogs to say no, because turning over and publishing new content again and again is hard. And when you've got someone who looks like a good writer with 5 ideas, you're like, yes, please, write them all.
Yeah, you come back to that a lot, Rebecca, actually, when it comes to a lot of things. Like, one of the most important things you can do is give good ideas to somebody and like offer to do that for them, right?
Well, we talk about ideas a lot, but there's also the next question that typically pops up right now is, what if they take my idea? If they take your idea, more power to them, man. The do-it-yourselfers are not your potential clients because they don't value a writer, right? We have a superpower. We know it's valuable. Maybe you don't know it's valuable yet. Hang around us long enough, you will know how valuable it is. You have a superpower. The words Understand that words move people forward. They persuade them. Even in content, we're still moving people towards purchase. Without us, businesses cannot stay in business in this day and age. Good luck not having an online presence, not having content, not having a way to attract, engage, build trust, and move people. Whether you're a veterinarian or you're selling a wine subscription, you still have to be able to engage. That's how we as consumers and business to business people, that's how we find solutions. That's how we find information. We compare options. It's all done online these days. So they need to have writers. They need you. And so giving ideas is a great thing. You want to always be seen as someone who's just a really nice person who has really great ideas. People love to do business with people like that. And the do-it-yourselfers who didn't value you in the first place, let them go ahead and try. We'd rather write for people who have the paychecks, who value the ideas, and are willing to pay.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, we're going to show you how to come up with a ton of ideas that are relevant to whoever it is that you'd like to write for too. So
it's counterintuitive though, right? Like we feel like we have to hold it close to the vest. And that is, in some writing areas, that might be the reality of, I'm not going to share this until I get it published. Or in copy and content and in marketing, it's not. The good people with good ideas, smart people are sharing. And, if you can help somebody out, it just always, I believe we talk about the theory of reciprocity, and we believe that it does come back to you again and again and again.
Yes. So, do you want to answer some more questions?
I'm happy to do whatever you want. I mean, I definitely want to talk about your opportunity as well. For those of you who are kind of, you're like, okay, but I want to write a portfolio piece, but someone just show me how. Bonnie's got a really cool opportunity where she's literally going to take you in and show you how, like over her shoulder, show you how to do it.
We'll get it done. This question just popped up on the screen.
Okay.
If you want to start with a blog post or sales letter or newsletter, like how do I do?
We have courses for anything. There is nothing, if there is a way to make a good living as a writer, we have a course. That's part of what AWAI is. I go out into the world with my partner and other experts in this space and find where the opportunities are. Where are companies paying writers, valuing writers, and paying them very well? We find those opportunities. We find the best experts who are not only great teachers, but are doing the stuff and actually getting paid. They're not just learning it and then teaching it. They are actually doing it. And then we have them bring in their methodologies. So you're not just learning theory, but you're learning like, this is how I actually do it. Again, going back to that sales enablement, Steve literally says, like, I've created formulas because it makes it faster for me now. Here they are. There's my formula. And he walks you through them. Pam Foster is teaching her site audit certification in a couple of weeks. She literally gives you all of her checklists, all of her proposals. Here's how you write it. That is that's who we are and what we do. So once you decide on a path, and the answer, there's no right way, just start somewhere. Start with blogs, start with newsletters, start with emails, whatever it is that you want to start with, just pick one and start with it. Because the reality is, and Bonnie alluded to this earlier, actually I'm in a mirror. You're this way. Yeah.
Over here.
She's over there. As Bonnie alluded to it earlier, the likelihood or what's going to happen is you're going to start with a newsletter, you're going to start with a blog post. And then one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to come to you and say, Bonnie, I love your blog post. Would you mind doing some stuff for social media? And she's going to say, yes, I have time in my schedule 3 weeks from now. She's going to run to AWAI, grab the course on social media, get up to speed and learn how to apply. Because again, it's just applying it. Or you are going to get a little more, you're going to get a little braver and you're going to say, Rebecca, I've been writing these blogs and it seems to be going very well. I'd love to get more traffic on them though. Can I go ahead and write your social media posts as well? And I'm like, wow, yes. So you're also going to write social media for an additional fee, but you're thinking ahead. You're thinking, I'm creating this asset for you, this blog. Let me put more eyeballs on it because that's going to make it do better, right? Or you might say, hey, Rebecca, I've been doing this blog for a while. Let me take over the newsletter as well. We could be repurposing some of this content, adding to it and blowing it into a full newsletter. Or, hey, Rebecca, we have these people are coming on these blog posts. What if I did a special report and we put up a landing page on this that collected names for the newsletter? Even though a blog is not for, we could turn the blog into a lead generation piece. And I know I'm getting a little bit deep here, but the point is, at any given time, once you get your foot in the door with any client, They have the opportunity to then ask you to go up or downstream with people coming or going from the piece of copy that you're writing. And you have the opportunity to go, where is the traffic coming from? Where did they go next? Let me write the next thing. Let me write the next thing. Let me write the next thing. That's easy because you have AWAI behind you. You don't have to know all the stuff. All you have to do is ask the question or have them ask you. And then you say, I have time in my schedule 3 weeks from now. And then you run to AWAI Catalog, you grab the program, you learn how to do it, because no client is expecting you to stop on a dime and have it done by Thursday, right? You can, anytime you can say 4 weeks, 2 months. Gordon Graham, one of our white paper experts, he books months out. Carlene Anglade Cole, sales letter writer, books the whole next year in the summer. You can't even get on her list for next year for a sales letter because it's expected for her to be busy. So if a client asks you something or you just want to see what happens, you want to ask them to go on to increase the scope of the project, do it, knowing that we have your back and we have the program that will help you get it done.
Yeah. And if you're starting out, I mean, you don't have to say, this is the first time I've done this, or like, I'm brand new at this. You really don't have to say that. Like you were just saying, Carlene is booked out. And if you say, I'm brand new, like you can't really exactly say, but I'm booked out. So you don't have to say, you can just kind of set your own schedule and your own boundaries, like you were saying. And you don't have to say, I've never done this before.
If you just think about that, that's like, especially if you've taken training from AWAI, if you have a certification, if you've been through the AWAI method, any of our stuff, you wouldn't, I always equate it to the dentist. The dentist doesn't go to dental school and then walk on the street and be like, hey, you're my first client. Let me drill your tooth. No, thank you.
Oh my God.
Go hit up 20 teeth and then call me back late. I'll come. Well, with writing, it's not like that, right? Like you can prove with a portfolio piece, I can prove to you that I have the goods. Here you go. And any project type that you want to work on, if you decide next Tuesday you want to do case studies, write a sample case study. You can do that. And with what Bonnie's going to show you in this Let's Write program, you're applying it to a blog post. Is that right?
Yes.
So she's going to walk you through how to create ideas, how to build a sample, and show you step by step how to do it. But what that does is it's not just about a blog post. Once you go through this process, you can apply it to anything. The idea is still the same, how you reverse engineer something to create it for yourself. Bonnie, why don't you actually talk a little bit about what that's going to, like, will I come into your office with you? How does that look?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you'll be in this office actually with me. Yeah, so actually we start by figuring out like what you would actually want to write about. Like we take you through like what you have experience in and things that you like and relating that to potential people that you could write for. So we go through all of that too. And then through that, you also like kind of learn how to figure out like who your potential clients people are, like who are you writing to and
Ooh, I like
who's
that.
their brand and all that. So we go through that. And then after that, you join me in my office for my writing process. And together we actually go through and write a blog post. We go through the whole structure of it. And I give you a template, not a template, but like a structure that you can follow every single time so that if you want to sit down to write a blog post or any kind of piece of content, really, you can follow this same structure every time. So it becomes like pretty easy and formulaic. And I think it's a lot of fun.
That too, though, is it also at like if you're starting with what I know, what I'm interested in, you're kind of forcing me to not, I'm not saying you have to pick a niche, but you're kind of forcing me to think about that so that when I write this thing, it's not like I'm just writing it and, well, I did it, but rather I'm writing it. And now I actually know who the audience was that I wrote it for. So I could then send it to some potential clients.
Yes.
I love that. It kind of
that's how we set it up. Actually,
that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I try to make it as comfortable as possible. I show you a couple of options for places where like you wouldn't even think would have a blog, but it's something that you might really love and be interested in. So that part's really fun, like going through that and just trying to see like, oh, you could potentially write something for this company like tonight, really, and send it to them. They could potentially need, or at least ideas, like send them ideas. We talk about how to get ideas too. So you go through the whole thing with me, and from the start to the end, you're learning a bunch of other stuff in the program from Rebecca also and Katie and various other experts. But like while we're together in the program, you're going to go from idea all the way to like finished piece at the end that you can be proud of and happy with. And you'll have the process that you can use every single time you want to write not just a blog post, but like a piece of content.
I
So
love that.
yeah,
And for
I
those of
think
you who
it's
don't
fun.
know Bonnie, she's been doing this for over a decade in the travel and photography space. And then we
Yes.
snatched her up a couple of years ago, and she's been with AWAI as a staff writer. So talk about volume. AWAI, if you work for us, there is a lot of volume. So she's been doing this time and time again.
Yes.
You need processes, you need systems. And so you're working with her on something that she's developed working for high volume companies who produce a lot of copy and content. So I'm excited for you because I do think that it demystifies things a little bit. Because again, we can say, just create samples. You can do this. Just go write a blog post.
Right.
But it's when you sit down to a blank page, it's hard. And I do, I say things like, and I'm going to force you to do the uncomfortable by getting clients. All of that stuff, I never want to discount it, because whatever you're feeling, guys, that's real. Your feelings are totally valid and totally real. Our brains just like to overcomplicate the fear a little bit by getting us all riled up about why we can't do it with the blank page and the reaching out to clients, and it all feels very scary. But this kind of stuff, when you can put yourself in a situation that forces you to do the thing, you don't have time to think about it. It's like throwing you in the pool. Like, you're in, you're fine, you got floaties on, you don't have to worry. It's just water.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't actually have to send it anywhere or do anything. Really, if I really take all the pressure off, we could just hang out together and write. That's kind of, like, you are going to come out with a finished piece that you could sell. And
Okay,
like,
go hang out with Bonnie and the right, and then come to me, because I'm the money person. I want to make you the money. So y'all write, and I'm going to force you to go send it.
Yeah. No, it does tell you how to make money with it. I mean, we talk about that. I mean, we don't talk about like fully the money portion, but you can definitely take your finished piece and make money with it. Yes. But if you're scared right now, just tell yourself that we're just going to write together, and
nothing will make you less scared than doing it. Like,
yes.
if you go all the way through and you have the finished piece, and I'm like, okay, this is all you have to do now is just stick it in this little thing and hit send. That's not going to kill you. Pushing that button is not going to hurt, right? Writing, like birthing writing, is sometimes harder than send.
Yeah. That's true.
And just remember too, best advice I ever got, once you hear the word no, you're a professional writer. You're finally in the game. Because if you're not hearing back any responses, it's because you're not doing it. You're not in the game yet. Writing is part of it, and it will give you the confidence to get up to bat, and then we're going to see it through. If you're with AWAI, you're here because you want to make money. So let's make money. Let's push it all the way through.
Okay. Forget what I said. Let's make you some money.
Making money.
Yeah. No, but you know what I think also sometimes helps with the fear of that part is just knowing that you're helping somebody. Like you were just saying, like, all of this stuff is like an ongoing need, like blogs, newsletters, whatever it is that we're doing here, we constantly need content and ideas, which is why we have like 4 or 5 writers on staff and constantly hire freelancers. And we're like a small size company, so there's tons of company, and you'll see in
and
the program
just imagine, like, we're a company that trains writers. So I have access through you all through dozens of writers, right? And we pay dozens of writers at any given time as contractors. But imagine if you're the veterinarian. Imagine if you're the winemaker. Like, I was just on a webinar earlier, and I was saying there's 85 wineries in my surrounding area. All of those people started those businesses because they had a passion for wine. Do you think that they're good writers? Like, what percentage of them do you think that they're good business owners, that they're really good at selling wine memberships, that they really understand the customer buying cycle and all the stuff? And you don't even have to know that yet, but it's all the copy and content. It's the website. It's the engagement pieces. It's you just signed up for the wine membership. Now I have to make sure that you're happy and satisfied so that you stay on with us. That's how we make our money to continue doing the passion thing that we have, which is making wine. Just think, in this day and age, I'm going to be a winemaker. Oh, well, you're also going to have to be an expert blogger, social media writer, and website content creator. Awesome. Cool. No, they're like, oh, I just want to make wine. Like,
and if you think about it in terms of helping, like, it makes it so much easier because you're actually making someone's day. When you come to them with a blog post that we're going to show you how to write, you have made their day. They will probably want to continue hiring you
And it
because
sounds like we're being simplistic, but just think, like, put yourself. We always talk about having empathy for the people that we're talking to. And so when we're writing, we're always meeting our reader where the reader is. When you're getting clients, you're meeting the client where the client is. And in most cases, they are in a situation where they have been forced to become a content creator and a publisher, and they just want to manufacture widgets, like, or see patients, or whatever the thing is, do taxes. They really want to just do taxes, but they can't because they have to write a newsletter to their clients to get them to continue doing. Imagine the
Yeah.
CPA who just wants to do the taxes, and you come along and you're like, hey, I have a CPA. I'm thinking of one of our members, Liz Farr. I have a CPA background. Let me take over your newsletter for you. I'll take care of that.
Yeah,
Yes,
here's 5 ideas.
yes.
Great, go. Here's some
Yes.
money.
Just send me your invoices and never contact me again about anything other than taxes. Like, just do my writing, never have to have me do it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you're saying, it might sound simple right now as we're talking about it, but through the program, we actually talk about like who you could potentially write for. And there's some places that may surprise you. Like I talk about a place that if you happen to like history and fashion and the outdoors, there's like this blog that you could potentially
All
write for that
three?
you may never have considered. Like just you like take from your interests. And you were saying like it forces you to like niche, but I don't think it even does that. It just gives you options. Like it gives you
Options.
tons of options of things to do with the things that you like and know already. And then you we write a piece together, and then you have an idea of where you can sell it.
I think that's one of the coolest things about writing is you could never exhaust the options. Like, just when you think
Yes.
you've gotten to the end, you just look around your room and you think, oh, what if I could write about that? I'm really into this thing over here. And like, what would you be excited to research, to read about every day? I go through phases where right now I'm obsessed with brain psychology. But like, if I could somehow like if that was my job to get paid to read and study this thing that I could, and you can apply brain psychology to anything in any area, but it's interesting to me right now. So what's the thing that you're like, gosh, if I can get paid to read about cooking or babies or do research on wine, whatever it is, you can write it. There's a huge industry there that you could be writing for.
You don't actually have to be a psychologist either.
No, not at all. Just a passion for it. John Stoltzfus, he was a rocket scientist, but he loved reading financial newsletters. And so when he decided to be a copywriter, he went to go write for financial newsletters. Why not? He reads them anyways. Yes. Why not write for the thing? And people would have thought, oh, no, you should work in engineering. He doesn't want to do engineering. He's done. He wants to go
not write about that at all.
Either.
Yeah. Yeah, which we hear that from a lot of people too, which you could go either way. Like if you were a CPA and you don't want to do taxes anymore, you have all that huge background. You can still use that to push you forward. But if you would rather write about horses and you know a ton about horses and that's your passion, then why not?
Exactly. Victoria says she's already learning so much for today. Victoria, thank you so much for telling us, because we will talk about anything you want to know.
All day long.
AWAI has been around 25 years. I've literally been with this company it'll be 18 years this coming January. So I have been through, I came out of college when the internet was a big thing, when that was new. I've been through the internet boom. I've been through social media coming on the scene and being a thing. I, with you guys, made it through the pandemic and the leap of it. If you guys aren't familiar with the leap, 10 years of e-commerce happened in 90 days. And that's
this last year.
That was last year. Where you guys are entering into the writing space, it's like no other time in the history of my career or AWAI in general. I've never seen this much volume so fast, because it's not like a marketing channel opens and then it goes away. A marketing channel opens and then another one opens and then another one opens. And when I say marketing channels, I'm talking like blogs, newsletters, funnels, social media, videos. Like they're all different channels, right? And from a business, it's figuratively, like turning on a hose or a valve. And if I don't do that thing, I'm basically saying, I don't want those customers. I don't have time right now to get those customers. So if I choose not to be on social media, I don't have to do social media, but I'm basically saying no thank you to those customers. If I choose not to do a blog, I'm basically saying no thank you to customers, potential customers who are researching solutions online. There was some stat we found recently, it's over 90% of people make decisions, buying decisions from what they read in blogs. What business in their right mind would say no thank you to a marketing channel that helps 90% of people make a buying decision? If you're buying something, and buying something is anything from your phone to your veterinary care to your teeth, it's all buying decisions. 90%. Who's going to say no thank you to that? Email, biggest ROI that you can spend, a return on investment for a marketer. You're going to say no to writing emails because you can't find someone to write them. So you're going to say no to that whole pool of customers because you couldn't find a writer? Like, that is mind blowing. And that just kind of starts to show you the other side, like the business having empathy for the client. What we do, we make that stuff look easy. For them, not easy. They're used to drilling teeth and making wine. Not at the same time.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about blogs too, because I think there's still a perception sometimes that a blog is like your personal journal online.
There are blogs like that.
There definitely, but companies need, like, that's how people find companies, through their blogs. That they need. And if you're about to like hire a dentist or something, or you're looking to, hire any service, you're going to go to their website and check them out. And if they have a blog, like, you're likely to go see what they're talking about.
If you just think for a second about how we form connections, there's because of my brain psychology, how we form connections as humans, it's usually through storytelling. When you connect with a friend, what is the first thing you do after you get past the whole, hey, how's it going? Everything's fine. You launch into stories, right? Like, that is how you connect with someone. That is how you make friends. You find commonalities. Storytelling is how the elders have passed down things to us for generations. It's how we articulate hard, complex ideas. It's through story, right? That is it. Blogs give everybody an opportunity to paint a picture through a story, and not necessarily a literal story, but it could be a story arc of some sort of, your dog has plaque on its teeth, let's get the plaque off the teeth, right? It could be a how-to story, but it gives companies, people, businesses selling products or services a way to connect on a human level beyond, I can do your taxes for you because I've been, like, okay, everybody can say that, but company B, that CPA drew me into the story of, if it was done incorrectly, what that might look like for me, what their lives are like, how much they enjoy doing taxes. Like, all of a sudden, when faced with 4 different options and one has the blog, has the personality, has the story, we're just drawn to that person, that company, that solution, because we've made a connection that we're not even aware of. That's what blogs do. That's why blogs work, and that's why businesses should have blogs. It gives a company, nobody identifies with the AWAI brand. You identify with us and the people. Like, we identify with you because we connect in these situations like this. Every company should have a blog to bring that personality forward, to let people connect with them that way, not just, I am a CPA and can do your taxes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a ton of opportunity there. And I'm glad you mentioned too that about painting a picture, because that's actually one of the 4 main elements of a strong, blog post or piece of content, and that is what we teach you. We're going to teach you the 4 main elements. So painting a picture is one of them, and we go over how to do that together. But there are 3 others that you also need to know about. So follow along with me, and I'll show you how to do it. It's actually super fun.
It's super fun. And once you know it, it's so, you learn that kind of stuff. Like, that's one of the many things that we teach you as far as structure and just ways of remembering things. But once you learn it and you're like, oh, yeah, that seems like this, all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I see the power. And the more you write and the more you apply these things, it just makes it easier. It makes the copy more effective. There's a difference between someone who just kind of wrote and somebody who wrote with a purpose. And what we teach you is how to write with a purpose, so that at the end of that piece, the person feels, we've kind of moved them towards the next step to be handed off to the next piece of content, and the next piece of content, and the next piece of content, all the way to the point where they're ready to actually buy a solution down the line where the copy presents itself.
And when you follow the structure, every single time that you do it, first of all, you're following a structure every time, which makes it easy, but then eventually you don't even need to do that anymore, because it's like learning how to drive a stick or something. Like, You're
Ride a bike.
thinking about it every time when you're learning, and then eventually you just don't even realize you're doing it. You're just like hearing the gears, and you're like, you don't even need to think about it, right? So it's kind of like that. Like you follow the structure
Totally like
as you
that.
do it, which makes it easy. And then later you don't even need to follow it because you're following it without thinking about it. So it's
Second
just
nature.
laying a basis for having those skills from the get-go. And then when you send these samples off to clients, they're going to see that it's a quality piece and that you know what you're doing.
That's actually good, even just the way you explain learning. It's something that everybody should take away from this. Remember, things are hard just because you haven't done them before, but trust in the methodology that we're giving in any course that you take, the structure behind the way we teach. We have studied teaching for over 2 decades now. We know what stops people, what starts them again, where those break points are. And we have learned that we can teach you theory, but helping you apply theory is way more powerful, getting you to do the thing. And what we've really changed about the way we teach now is giving you what we call scope of project. So Bonnie doesn't just teach you how to write a blog and then apply it. It's how to write a blog, how to apply it. Now let your brain actually latch on to an idea. What interests you? Who could I write for? What is that audience? What do they need? Now I'm writing and applying something in a very real setting, which is much different than just doing an exercise or doing an assignment. I'm applying it to a real world situation. It's like talking about putting out a fire and then actually going and putting out a fire where you can feel the heat and your fear is there. Writing the methodology that we're teaching you and what Bonnie's going to do with you. It's not just talking about how you'll put out the fire, but rather letting you feel the heat and like get in that situation in a very safe place so that your brain and body connect and really understand what it is that you're going to be doing when you're working with clients. And the reason we do that is not only to give you that experience, but so that when you go out into the world and client, whoever says, great, Bonnie, I'd love for you to write a blog. This is what it is. That's not really your first time. Because you already did it with Bonnie. The brain has already done it. Your body has already put out a fire before. It knows for real what it feels like. So when you go to write, I probably should have picked a better analogy than a fire. But when you go to write that for that client, that's like your second experience. So even when you leave a training like this, I want you to come out saying, okay, now I have to get my first client. I don't want that. What I want you to come out is like, well, I've already done that. That's one. Now let me get the next assignment under my belt. It's the next assignment, not your first. And psychologically, it'll do something for you that'll just give you a little more confidence. I've done this before. This is familiar.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we got people. Oh, sorry. You're still going?
No, I was just saying excellent. And I'm sorry, I have this fidget in my hand that I didn't mean to pick up, but I picked it up and now I can't put it down.
That's okay. I've been petting my dog over here.
My kids leave their fidgets in here. I can always find out when a kid was in my office because I find a fidget.
Well, I always know when a dog's been in my office. Fur everywhere. But yeah, so how much does a blog class cost?
So this one, what Bonnie is talking about is something brand new that we're trying. You can sign up for it through, I think, Thursday at midnight. Jen, our backstage producer, is going to say, yes, you're right, or no, you're incorrect. It will be $49 through Thursday. And this is to get that first round through to see what this experience looks like. We do have a more comprehensive blogging program that's full, all in, all kinds. But what we find is that for most writers, the first step is learning something, applying it, and in this case, developing a portfolio piece. Because if I can get you there, you will have the confidence that you can go further. So even after this one thing, you'll be ready. You'll be able to go out and start and say, look, winemaking company, winemaker, here's an example blog post. I'd love to write blogs for you. You will be able to do it at the time that this one finishes, this mini experience. But we didn't want it to be so overwhelming either, where it was so big and a lot to take on. You can get through this fast. It'll take you a few hours and you'll be done. And you can actually get through this and get up and going. And then know that we're here. Again, is it all that you're going to know? No. But when you want to know more, AWAI is behind you. We have every possible training that you could need. We can answer any question you could possibly have. We've got your back. So you just go on out there and get those clients as we show you. And then we'll be here when they're like, hey, can you do my social media? Can you do my newsletters? You just say yes, and then you come to us and we'll help you figure that piece out.
Yeah, so this is actually a really good question. I'm glad this came up because this isn't just about blogging, this course. We picked blog posts, right, as a sample, like something that we can walk you through, but we're giving you basically a structure you can follow to create samples through like blogs or content or pretty much anything you want to create a sample for. But it does use blogs as your example, like a blog post as your example.
I just saw somebody sign up. Like, that's amazing. I want to say. But as far as like whether it's like another course, the way I would look at this is this is a specific writing experience. So if you have our blogging program, you're going to learn some things in here that are different, because this isn't really about blogging per se. This program is just using a blog for an application piece to apply what you've learned. It's the fundamentals of persuasion. To apply what you've learned to a blog post, because most people, if you think back to what I said at the very beginning, what's the easiest project to start with? It's one that you already know. So we picked a project type that we wouldn't have to teach you the project type, because you know what a blog is. And we're just going to teach you the skills and then show you how to apply it to a blog post. So you could look at this. If you have the blogging program, you actually do have exercises and things in there already. But if you would just like an extra assignment where you're working, getting another process and turning something out, this might be something I would think of it like an add-on rather than an either or. But it's not, you have the blogging program. It's not necessarily necessary to learn how to write a blog, but it's another opportunity to learn a writing process and apply it and create a portfolio piece as well.
Yeah, I think that actually complement each other really well.
Yeah.
So this is self-paced. So you'll be in my office with me, but you will follow along at your own pace. I've already put all the lessons together for you. So you don't have to worry about, if you don't have time today or tomorrow, you don't have to worry about showing up specifically at any time in particular. This is like whenever you can fit it in. You can do the whole thing in one day if you really wanted to, or just take a couple hours and just do the meat of it. So self-paced.
Excellent. Anything else? Any other questions you guys have? Tell you what to make for dinner tonight or anything else about writing?
Well, Ingrid was saying, when do you start? And again, as soon as you want to, because it's self-paced. So you can pick it up now and join me in my office as soon as
it's literally available now. So if you go sign up right now, you can literally click through to the other page and actually start. You can write with Bonnie tonight if you wanted to just go in and get started, which I love that. I love those of you who are like, let's do this and just get in. Thank you for all the information and expertise. You're welcome. Russell, if there's anything else, and this is for everybody, if there's ever a topic that you guys want to discuss, we're happy to do it. We love this opportunity. Yes. Thank you for spending the time with us. If this is where we would love to spend most of our time. If there's something in your brain where you're just like, I just can't figure out this thing, or I've got this roadblock and I just need to move past it, or I've got this self-defeating thing that's linking around, or I have an opportunity, but I don't know how to, like anything that could possibly, if there is a theme that you would like us to jump on and cover, email me anytime, message me through Facebook. We want to know this stuff, because if we can help any one person move forward today, it's well worth our time. That's what we love. It's what we live for. Friday, we have someone, Melissa Everett, who's a lot of times behind the scenes as well. She actually sends around all the success stories that she's curated that week from our different programs on Friday. That's how this company ends. Every Friday at 5 o'clock, every AWAI team member goes out celebrating all of your wins. So this is where our heart is. It's what we do and why we do it. So if there's something that we can do to get you moving forward, we want to know about it, because it's everything. It's really what has kept AWAI around for this long and kept us and our hearts full of passion for this. 18 years I've been here, and I wake up every day grateful that this is how I get to spend my professional career. And I couldn't be more appreciative of everything that you guys, and honored to be part of this journey with you. Let me help you. Bonnie wants to help you. Jen behind the scenes, everybody here, it's part of our corporate culture to help, because we love the celebration. We love hearing the stories of, I was here and now I'm there. It's everything. So please let us help you if we can. If there's something you need, we want to know about it.
100%. Yep. And thanks, guys, for tuning in and being here with us and sending in your questions. This was super fun. So look forward to the next one.
What's it going to be on? You guys get to decide. All right.
Join me in my office. Bye, guys.
Have a good night.